Hello, welcome. Gail is here. I'm so excited that Gail is here. Welcome, everyone, to the story I'm telling myself. I apologize. I know I was late on this broadcast. I'm not even going to waste your time on the cluster of me behind the scenes. The story I'm telling myself is holy heck, can't you get your stuff together? That's the story going in my head. But I'm putting that story aside because my internal high achiever perfectionist who wants to beat the crap out of myself right now does not get to play because Gail is in the house and we're
Hello.
gonna have this conversation. And Gail, I'm just going to let you do your own little quick intro here. So tell everybody who you are, please.
Oh, okay. So I have a hard time doing that because I'm like you, a little bit complex. But I am someone who works with people who are like going through the darkness, people who are trying to get out of the chaos, the messiness, the ickiness in life, because it shows up. And I just love watching people transform before my very eyes. It's beautiful, beautiful work.
Yes, yes, it is beautiful. And if you want to see Gail in action, you got to come join us on Mondays for Talk Me Off the Ledge because it is just a masterclass of brilliance from Gail inside and out. So you'll get a chance to really see her mind at work and all she brings, which is just beautiful and amazing stuff. So Gail, you have chosen to be really vulnerable with our folks today. And I think this episode is going to really resonate with a lot of people. And some of us for whom it may not be resonating, that may be because you just really need to do the deeper work. But I'm just going to say, tell us about the story that you uncovered that was running in your subconscious mind and getting in your way.
Well, and this is interesting because the story that I was telling myself is that I don't have a story to tell myself. Right, right. And
Okay, look, I just had to interrupt us because we are live for a reason. If you are listening, first of all, please introduce yourself. Say hello in the comments so that we can pop you in here. And two, okay, how many of you have told yourself that these very words that Gail just said? Like, what are you talking about? I don't have a story. I
right.
don't tell myself a story.
Oh my goodness. Oh my goodness. Um, yeah, I used to do timeline work. I still do. And when I got to guilt, I'm like, I can't even find guilt. That's how much it was buried. Right. Right. And in this case, it was abandonment. And I can remember early on, like 22, 23, maybe my husband saying, I'm not here to fix your abandonment issues. And my response was, I have no idea what you're talking about. What abandonment issues, right? so, and so I buried that really, really deep. Hey there, hi Ruth. And so it took me a few years to start to realize that I had huge abandonment issues. Guys, and I'll just give you quick little examples. My mom passed away when I was 3. I had a recurring dream until I was about 12 of me going to the train station with her, me getting on the train, and she's still on the platform and the train takes off.
Oh my Lord.
Right?
Golly.
Yeah. But
Talk about
I
interpreting dreams. Like
have,
wow.
that's not
Wow.
hard. That's not hard. And so I abandoned her in that dream, right? I got on without her, right? So I took the blame, and that's a whole other thing. And then my father was not a very enlightened person. Let's just put it that way. His pickup line would be on the phone with the woman and talking about how he's burdened with this child raising her by himself because his wife passed away. So here my mom passed away and I'm a burden and I'm having these dreams and so on and so on. And there's so many stories. And at 13, I put up a wall and I wasn't feeling the pain anymore. But I found family. I hung around with a gang.
Oh. There you go. There you
Okay, so
go. So the family you choose, right? People talk about this all the time, that you're not always trapped with your family of origin. You also have your family of choice, but we're taking a darker turn here because and I have somebody in my that very close to me that was on a similar trajectory, that the family of choice, the people most willing to accept you, see all of these flaws that you can't even see, and they embrace you anyway.
right.
Allow you to feel everything, all that nurturing that you've been missing. But unfortunately, it comes with a lot of other strings attached. Continue your story.
Right. Well, so that happened, and then I got married, and I was more in love with his family than with him. So, of course, that marriage didn't work. And then I got married again to a guy who had a huge Italian family, but I didn't fit in. So that didn't work. And so these recurring themes. And at work, I was a type A personality. I was a high achiever. I went up the ladder wherever I worked, bam, 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 really fast. Why? Because I got the love when I achieved. I got the love, got the recognition I didn't even know I was so hungry for. Right?
Okay, and we just got to pause again because I want that to sink in. So I'm going to ask you to repeat that again, because I talk mainly to people who are professional workers about the struggles, right, of navigating work life. And this is a struggle you may not have consciousness about, but here is your moment, friends. And so say it again, Gail. Say it again for everyone.
I was a high achiever, type A personality. No matter where I worked, I climbed the ladder very quickly. And I was successful, air quotes, but I did it because I got the glow, the love, the recognition I was hungry for and didn't even know it.
There you go.
Yeah.
I shared, mine is in some ways about abandonment, but also for me, the way I tend to think of this story is rejection, and rejection and abandonment. They are kissing cousins right there,
Yep.
right? And but in doing my own work, I realized for me, it went back to my first best friend in grade school. And we used to, every recess we were out playing together. We hung out together all the time. And then one year, a new person showed up,
Oops.
and that person became the person that she wanted to spend all of her time with at recess. And I felt abandoned and rejected. And I can see where I carried that early experience, where I carried that forward and created this narrative of, I'm going to be so amazing, people can't reject me. And I
Right.
definitely carried that into my business life and how I chose to show up. And I still have to work on that. I mean, I don't think we ever 100% recover. It is always a work in progress. So friends, know that if you are a work in progress on this, you are in really good company, because Gail is amazing. I'm pretty good too. So you're in
Yes.
really good company with us.
And so you also know that I have tripped down the spiritual path. It's certainly not something I woke up one day and said, I'm going to do this. It found me. And one of the phrases I have learned to embrace is, I create my reality, right? So that means everything that I have experienced, I have created. So it's been created by me, for me.
Mm. Say that again. Been created by me,
By
for
me,
me.
for me. And
Now,
so
and look, if you're listening to this and you're like, poppycock,
I'm going to
I
give you
love
some
English
examples.
phrases. I just love English. Gary, that's why I love Gary when he's
I know.
on the ledge with us.
Oh,
Poppycock.
pish
Like,
posh, pish
there is
posh.
just no way that is true. I don't get to create in my life. This is an opportunity. We come to the story I'm telling myself to question, to question those beliefs and assumptions. And so I invite you, listener, just go with Gail for a moment here. Just go with her in this story, this positive story that she's telling herself about her power in her own life.
Right. And so the whole abandonment thing, when I finally woke up to it, I'll tell you, the day that happened, I thought I was dying from a heart attack. Again, I had found what I thought was family, right? And it was, I created this horrible nightmare by stepping blindly into what I was looking for. I was crushed. I was devastated. I was disillusioned. And I was on the couch ready to call 911. And I stopped and I said, I don't think this is a heart attack. It's a broken heart. I need to figure this out because I have a repeating pattern here. I recognize that I had this pattern that kept repeating, and the universe is going to keep slapping this on me until I wake up. So, what is the story I am not facing? Right? And then the train story came into mind. And all of these backstories started to rise up. And I'll tell you, Rita, one of the stories. So here's a trick, guys. This is very woo, but it works. Your body and your mind holds all of the information ever in your life, even ever since conception. And so I had like one brick left. So now I'm taking the bricks away, right? And I have one thing left, and I can't figure out what is in my way. So that night I went to sleep and I said, subconscious mind, you're not going to dream today. You have a job to do. And I'm going to tell you what I want you to do. Find out what this brick is, because I need to face it. So I went to sleep. The next morning I woke up with a flash. Some people have dreams at whatever, but it works all of the time. And about a week or two later, I visited my sister. Now, my sisters are way older than me. My nieces and nephews are my age. And I'm sitting there having coffee with her, and I went, so Mom tried to abort me, and she failed, huh? And she looked at me and she said, how do you know that? I said, my body knows. That was the first experience of abandonment. So, I did some woo things. I brought her down. I forgave her. And that was the key. I went through every scenario and forgave myself for holding on. And like for my mother, I said, listen, given the situation you were in, given the times, given your choices and resources, if I were in your shoes, I think I would have made the same choice. How can I be angry, right? So I forgive you and thank you for failing.
And that is just another story we tell ourselves. Our stories of anger, our stories of what's the word that I'm looking for? Of justification, for all the ugliness we feel inside of our self-righteousness. That's the word I was looking for. Our sense of self-righteousness, that is just a story, because the other side of that story is forgiveness.
Right.
The other side of that self-righteousness is acceptance of others, which is true to the faith that I grew up in, of the story of Jesus. Like that was the story, right? It wasn't about judgment; it was about acceptance.
It was all about forgiveness.
And
Forgive
all
them,
about
Father,
forgiveness.
they know not what they do.
Right. So, but I don't want to get too deep in the religious thing. I just want to say though, Gail, like, so many of us are caught in these patterns, whether they are in our work lives, whether they are in our home lives, and frankly, quite honestly, and I know that there is no separation. They weave all through all of our relationships. You have the saying, how you do one thing is how you do everything. How you do your relationships at work is how you do your relationships in your community, everywhere else, right?
Right.
So where you have these patterns of behavior that and this is what's so important to understand. it's not, you don't have these patterns that are restricting you for bad reasons. This was what you needed, especially at a young age, to protect yourself.
Right.
These are patterns that were created within ourselves to protect ourselves at our most vulnerable moments. However, when we allow them to become the subconscious drumbeat of our life and we don't no longer raise them up and examine them, they sort of start to run roughshod over us. They
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 take
lose their
control.
ability. Yeah, they lose their ability to know where they're really needed. And it's like that saying about if you have a hammer, everything is a nail. That's sort of what happens subconsciously is this protection self, right? Our internal narrative of protection is just trying to treat everything like a nail, and everything isn't a nail. And that is why it's important that we are able to recognize that subconscious pattern and do some critical thinking about it. And I just am interested for you to give a little more color to what it is about where you were in your journey that you think allowed you in this moment of despair on your sofa in the midst of what most people would call a panic attack, feels just like a heart attack. This deep panic attack feels like a heart attack. How do what things enabled you to step away from that huge emotional moment, that tide that was carrying you, and reconnect to your higher order thinking?
Well, fortunately for me, at that point in time, I had already gone through master's training NLP, quantum linguistics, um, coaching certification. I mean, I had a bucket load of training behind me, and I just applied that. So I recognized that I had a choice. I had a choice of going to the hospital or figuring my stuff out, right? And I chose not to go to the hospital because I didn't want to become dependent on drugs and external means of managing what was going on internally, right? Whether they would give me depression pills or whatever, I knew that I had to solve my own problems myself. And what is beautiful about this, Rita, is, that and a few other, major shifts in my life happened so that I have perspective and compassion for those I work with. So I no
Mm,
longer work on anything that is outside my personal experience. Right. And I've gone through some dark stuff. Right. That was dark stuff and other dark stuff. So um, if I have a client that I'm not able to be experiential with them, I will find them another coach. Because for me to just use my knowledge working with someone is rhetoric. I don't know because I've not experienced, right? And so,
right.
yes, yes. And I don't know you either. I just know I've had a similar experience. I know how I navigated that. Let me hold space for you to go through this. And that's a lot of what I do. It's like psychologically I'm holding you and hugging you.
So I popped your Substack up at this point because if you're intrigued more about the journey that Gail's talking about, that's what all she's talking about on Substack. She is dropping breadcrumbs for you and sharing a lot about her story. I would highly encourage you, if you're a Substack user, to follow her at Glizbeth,
Yeah.
and in really get an opportunity to get her insights about these things. I just think that so often uncovering these core stories, and Sri's coming up in a couple of weeks, and he's going to talk about some of his core stories. But
Hmm.
we've all heard about therapy, and look, I'm if you need medication to help you get to this space, if you
Sometimes.
need, I mean, you were getting different kinds of professional help. I mean, there are all kinds of ways to navigate this. There's a joke. I'm a psychologist by training, and there's this joke that everyone who becomes a psychologist is just trying to work out their own crap. And there is there is a lot of truth to that. We also want to do a lot of good in the world as well. But what I want you to understand, and if you're still with us and you're listening, please pop into the comments and say hi. It's awfully quiet in the comments today, and I'm missing
Yeah.
all the energy of our listeners. But what is important for us to understand from my perspective is that the human journey is complex. And because of the biology of how we are, of how we work as human beings, the way our mind works, the laziness of our mind, to it wants to create these stories. It wants to perpetuate these stories. It gathers data to reinforce these stories. So again, this is why critical thinking is so important. And so the more willing you are to do what Gail is talking about, to ask yourself, what's the story? And is
Yeah.
that the only story here? And what else could be true here? All of these things are going to help you start your own journey of finding your way. Hey, Melissa, thanks for being here. Melissa is an author. She is going to be on soon, and she's getting ready to produce a guide that sort of gives some guidance around this as well. A new workbook that's a follow up to her first book. So Gail, in the interest of time, and I know I made us start late, so you had this moment of awakening where you realized, I'm interested to know, what were some of the other stories, the other doubts, the other things that were showing up in your head that you had to navigate before you really got to this place of full clarity?
So, awakening is a process. And the first process is you hit the bottom, right? And so I was accepting blame and responsibility that wasn't mine. I was being beaten up and accepting it, thinking I am unworthy, I am not good enough, I am horrible at this, horrible at that. It was it was like I was beating myself up, right, in this particular relationship. And I had a roommate who finally, at one point, I did not accept responsibility for something. I said, "This is not my purview. This is not why I'm here. This, you want some, I can refer you to someone who knows this stuff, but I'm not even touching it with a 10-foot pole." And I hung up, and my roommate said, "Well, it's about time you stop taking the shit that's not yours." Right? Right? And so I think that was my nugget of curiosity as to what's going on here, right? But I also refused to leave until I had gotten to the place of seeing this person that I was working for and that I had this situation with, seeing her with love, regardless of what was
Mm.
going on, right? And I got there, just like with my mother, I got there to understanding her lack, her perception, her stories, and this is all she has to work with. And if she's not going to work from a conscious perspective, it's not my job to change that. And
I just want to
so,
jump in and share a piece of advice here that's so relevant to what you're saying about how do you get to this. I'm thinking about, like, how do you get to this space of showing up with love for somebody else despite all of the you feel, about a situation. And here's some advice that my good friend Jerry Richmond, and someday I'm going to get a hold of you, Jerry, and you're going to come do this show too, gave me really early on, was when in so tip, when you hear woulda, coulda, shoulda, when your story is, well, if my boss would have done this, or my boss should have done that, or things would have been better if this could have happened differently, right? This is you trying to rewrite, and it is you expressing your expectation that may have never actually been
right.
verbalized to anybody else. It's the story. Those are stories. Woulda, coulda, shoulda are stories that you are telling yourself. That is a ding, ding, ding moment. There is a story going on in your head, and you should be asking yourself, now, what is the story I'm telling myself? Because until you recognize your woulda, coulda, shoulda about your boss, you couldn't let that go so that you could come to her from that place of understanding and love.
Right.
When you're
Right.
holding on to woulda, coulda, shoulda, it is stealing your peace of mind.
I created that situation so that I could face the abandonment issues that I was running my life on. This was created by me, for me, to finally wake up. So we're getting back to that, the beginning of our conversation. I knew as I was driving to that job, I had this very conversation with myself. Gail, you're putting her on a pedestal. Gail, you're leaving everything. Gail, you are idolizing her. And the other part of my brain was going, it'll be okay. It'll be okay. Don't worry about it. And the other part of my brain is going, oh, this is not a good idea. And the other part of my brain, you'll be fine. Right? Right? So you guys, if you don't have at least two voices, I have many more than that going on in your head. You're lying.
Yes, I mean my favorite model comes from the positive intelligence work that it has identified through scientific research 9 voices that sound off in our heads on a regular voice or regular basis. And once you understand the and can identify and know those 9 voices and begin to build a relationship and understanding about those, it is transformative. It is just transformative to recognize that that voice is not a voice that you have to listen to.
It is the board of directors.
Yes.
They're just giving you their perspective, and you, as the conscious being, what's the word I wrote down? Oh, yeah, I wrote down finesse. You can address and walk through your life with finesse, or you can walk through your life like I used to, like a bulldog, right? It's your
Oh,
choice.
yeah. So I love that. Are you choosing finesse or being a bulldog?
Right.
Like that is a great way to position it. And part of what I love about what Shirzad teaches in his work in positive intelligence is that all of these 9 or 10 voices actually that he's identified, these 10 characters, the board of directors in your head, they all represent strengths that you need.
Mm-hmm.
The piece, the pivotal piece here is whether or not they are being used and applied in the right places. And again, they're just going to chatter away. They're going to have an opinion about everything. You have to be the critical thinker that says, is my pleaser self appropriate in this situation? Is my high achiever, is my victim, is my hypervigilant, who, my judge, right? So it's not that these are the dark sides of yourself that you have to hide, which was why I love the piece that you put out today on Substack. Go read it. It is about embracing, about recognizing, about valuing and utilizing those pieces when and where they bring their best strength, but not overusing them so that they are actually becoming problematic to what you want to bring into your life.
Yeah, I am not a proponent for killing ego. Sorry, ego has a very important role in my life, but ego is the worker bee, not the CEO.
Yes.
Right?
Yes. Say that again.
Ego is the worker bee, not the CEO. And so sometimes, and sometimes I'll say this out loud. Thank you so much, ego, for bringing that to my attention. That's your job. But I will decide what to do with it because there is no fear, there is no danger here that I can see. But thank you for doing your job. right?
Yeah,
And
so
go
it's
ahead.
it's how you choose to receive and act upon it. It's not it's that every thought that we have, just because we think it doesn't mean it requires our response or that it's accurate or that
All
is
right.
appropriately placed, right? There's needs to be discernment that we are bringing into our relationship with the thinking, with the assumptions, with the beliefs that we hold.
Yeah, I mean, we are complex beings. That's why at the beginning, like, who are you? I'm complex. So are you. What, when you show up working with me in a coaching situation, you don't just bring Rita, the employee. You bring Rita, the all. So I bring Gail, the all, though I do leave my ego and judgment at the door because that has nothing to do with having a session, right?
So, so if you were going to kind of summarize, so sorry to put you on the spot, but if you were going to
Oh,
summarize and restate based on this journey that you've been on and this new awakening and relationship that you are developing with yourself and that board of directors, what is the positive, effective, transformative story that you now tell yourself about your relationship with those things?
well, they're all welcome to the table. And that's one of the things I wrote today is, you're welcome to the table to sit down and talk. And I will physically sometimes take like ego, child, crone, take you out. Like I will physically sit down. Let's have a conversation. And if I do that, I also go, okay, we're done. Come back, please. I don't leave me hanging around the house all over the place and fragmented. Um, and it's a way, and I also, this came up in last week's, I also give it different names. Like my ego's name is George because I need to be sure that when I talk to ego, I don't identify with ego. And the only way I feel comfortable in doing that is seeing ego as a man and giving ego a man's name. And that way we can have a conversation as two separates and then come together. And that's the other thing. We aren't separate. Like all of these voices and all of these archetypes that we are still us. It's still the one us, right? And so bringing those pieces together. When I work with clients, I'll say, when we're done, that pottery that is put together with the gold, so much
Mhm.
stronger than it was before. That's going to be you, right?
Yeah, and
But
for those of you that are internal family systems therapy teaches a very similar kind of way of recognizing things. So for those of you that have been on a maybe a traditional therapeutic path, you might if you hear if you're in a place where you're wanting to do work and you're going the therapy route, internal family systems kind of gets to the same idea. And I think what is so important and valuable and why this isn't toxic practice is it is about embracing and making a space, but it is about, again,
of
maintaining relationship.
with yourself of love. And what's interesting is I have worked with therapists and their clients concurrently because I have a different approach and we don't know what works for you, like, right? So let's try this tool, let's try that tool, let's try this tool. Oh, that one works. Okay. And I will tell you that it is a very powerful thing to work with a transformation coach along with your therapist. I would never suggest anyone drop their therapist until they're ready, right? But I'll give you a quick example of one. There's a lot of stuff that we did, but at one point I said, "So let's talk about anger." And she says, "I've never felt anger." So being the queen of suppressing, I know all about suppressing, right? And I said, "Well, we need to bring that up." I showed up with a bunch of dishes from the dollar store and told her I wanted her to smash them against her cement wall in the backyard. She says, "Oh, I can't do that." And by the way, swear F you while you do it. So I said, well, I'm going to just leave these right here. You let me know when you're done. I get a call from her less than a week later, and she said, oh, that felt so good. And now I am so angry at you because I have this mess I have to clean up, right? Right? But then I felt now the energy is moving, right? It's not stuck. Now we can get to work because she's allowed herself to feel.
Yes, and that is the whole thing about we are teaching. What this whole podcast is about is giving ourselves permission to create a different relationship with our internal narrator.
Right.
And I just having you early in, these are such good lessons, Gail. So amazing. I just dropped your website, so you can participate in Gail's writing and understanding. You can also learn about her on her website. But we are at that place where we're going to need to be closing this down, Gail. Like, you and I, we could talk about these things forever. But I need you to tell everyone how you want them to get in touch with you. What's the best way for them to stay connected with you and what you're doing?
So definitely subscribe. It's for free on Substack. You'll hear a lot about because I'm putting the raw me out there. And get in touch with me on LinkedIn and tell me that you heard about me from here. I do not accept friendships from strangers. But if you saw me here and you want to get to know me, then I will accept your request to
Well,
connect.
and Gail, can I just say, because LinkedIn is monetizing now connections because you have to have a premium membership or you're limited to only 5 personalized requests a month. Is that if they comment in the comments of the show that they want to connect with you and then send it, would that be acceptable to you?
Absolutely. Yeah.
Okay. Because
Yeah.
we just have to we love you, LinkedIn, for many things, but this is an anomaly we don't understand about a platform that was built on connection, other than we understand you've got to pay for all the great things that you give us. I've also dropped in here your Amazon store link. Gail
Mhm.
is a multiple book author. Um, and you are going and you're experiencing her vulnerability, which is how all of her books are written. So this takes you right to her page in Amazon. Of course, you don't have to buy her book from Amazon. You can get it from a lot of different places, probably even from Gail's website. But this shows you the whole list of books that she has published out there. And I have a feeling that is not exhausted yet, that there are more books to come from you, Gail.
Well, it's really funny because last year I said, no, the year before I said, well, I'm done writing books. And then 2 more books came.
I get it. I totally get it. I totally get it. Well, Gail, it has been a joy to be in this conversation with you. Everyone that joined us, thank you for being here. Please, if you would help us out, make sure that if you love this episode, share it with somebody. Come comment if you're watching the replay. Make sure that you're subscribing or following. So follow me on LinkedIn. If you ring the bell next to my name, you'll get all my event notifications. This is streaming on my YouTube channel. And if you would rather do it that way, you can get all your notifications through YouTube by subscribing to my page or saving the playlist, which is a podcast on YouTube for the story I'm telling myself. And if you have a recommendation of somebody you want to have come participate in the show, I'm open. I'm into it. Like, let me know somebody in your life that you think other people need to know that are amazing, just like Gail is. Gail, it's always such a deep learning and connection when we are together. Thank you for giving me and these listeners your time today and your generous spirit. You're just an amazing person. And I love knowing that you are in my life.
And Rita, I am so thrilled. I mean, just by accident, we connected and then had coffee, and that was it. We were locked in for life. So the family that I choose, definitely, Rita, family that I choose. Thank you,
Absolutely. And
everybody.
speaking of family, Thank you to my daughter Sarah for my mug. This is my Christmas gift to my best mom ever. And I know, but made by a Louisville Pottery Studio. But it warms my heart. And this tea is we had this beautiful 75 degrees yesterday, and now it's 47 degrees and cold. So it just felt like a hot peppermint tea day. All right, friends. We are back tomorrow. Oh, Florian, thank you for this feedback. It makes me feel so good when we get
Hey,
this
Florian.
tomorrow. Sandra Adeyeye Bello is
I
with
could
me
have
from
Adeyeye.
Nigeria. Yeah, from Nigeria to talk about entrepreneurship and the story that often we tell ourselves as entrepreneurs. You're going to really relate to this because it's not only entrepreneurs. By the way, everything she's going to talk about is going to apply to any of you that have ever wanted to ask for a promotion or a pay raise. You're going to find Sandra's content to be beneficial to you. So come back and join us tomorrow. And then every week, there's going to be 2 or 3 episodes coming. So just keep following along, keep coming to join us. I'm so thankful to have you with us. Thank you. And thank you, Gail. And have a wonderful day, everyone. Bye.
Bye-bye.